5 lies your mind tells you when you're feeling depressed. So I can remember in high school very vividly, one morning going to school and feeling like there was just this weight on my shoulder. The day before, I remember having a game and I really didn't do too well in that basketball game. And as a result, I was just in my head. I was in my head just thinking of all the things that I did wrong, all the things that I could have done right. And it was just really, really hard for me. Plus, school, even though it was a place to get away from home, it didn't mean that school was a great place for me to begin with. So being at school really wasn't a place that I sought comfort, if you will. It was just another place to go. Now, I remember going to school that morning and just feeling like I just couldn't do it. Like I just couldn't walk through those doors. I remember feeling like, man, if there was anything that I would rather do other than going to school, I would do it. And luckily for me that day, my dad decided to take me to work with him because he kind of worked on the road, if you will. So I remember that day vividly, and I remember all the things that my mind told me. And to this day, I can tell you the things that my mind told me then proved to not be true today. And that's why I want to go over in this podcast with you, the 5 lies that your mind is telling you right now when you're feeling depressed. Because the thing is when you're feeling depressed, your mind is not in the right place. It's not in the right place that you need it to be in order to make the right decisions that you needed to make. I can actually, if you wanted to, I can hook you up to these machines in a doctor's office or in a hospital, and I can literally see the chemical imbalances in your brain showing me that you are going through something, showing me that you are depressed. So I want you guys to know that there's definitely a physical component to feeling depressed. It's not just something that's made up or something that we kind of just use to get out of whatever work or, let's say, responsibilities that we have. No, depression is real. And the lies that your mind will tell you during that time is real as well. Now, before I go into point number 1, make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you can get more gems like this, because these are the only places, or rather, these are the only gems that I share in my therapy sessions. So you can get these gems for absolutely free by just simply subscribing to this channel. Lie number 1 that your mind is telling you when you're feeling depressed is that you are the only one going through this. Now, I know it feels tough when, let's say, you're going through grief, you're going through, let's say, a breakup or divorce. Basically, when life is not going the way that you want it to go, I know that that can be tough because I've witnessed it in my personal life and I see it from my clients. But the thing is when we're going through tough times, whether it be grieving, a breakup, a divorce, or anything like that, we tend to isolate. We tend to get in our own bubbles and not reach out to people. We tend to believe that everyone's living this happy life except us. And social media does not help with that thought. So what do? We break down. As I said, we isolate, we suppress. We basically stay in this little bubble, this little cocoon until we feel ready to come out. But here's the thing. You staying isolated, you staying in that cocoon, all it's doing is compounding that depression to begin with. And that's where the problem starts. Now, Kristin Neff, she's one of the go-to people when it comes to self-compassion. And she says that there's these 3 areas of self-compassion, and I'll share them with you. One of them is self-kindness versus self-judgment. So we want to find ourselves speaking to ourselves the way that we would speak to a friend, right? Sometimes we can get in our own head and we'll just beat ourselves down into oblivion. We'll just really pummel ourselves with negative words or, as I said, self-judgment. And that does not help, okay? So we want to make sure we're speaking to ourselves the way that we would speak to a friend or even to a younger version of ourselves. Now, the second area of self-compassion is mindfulness versus over-identification. So basically not over-identifying with any emotion or any thought, but being able to just simply notice it, to objectively see these thoughts and these emotions. That's what we want to do when it comes to depression or the thoughts that comes with it. Now, the third area, which is tied to this lie, which makes this lie a lie, if you will, is common humanity versus isolation. When we start to understand that there are several other people, hundreds and thousands, honestly millions of other people that are struggling with the same feeling, it gives us hope. It shows us that we can go and have this feeling and come out of it. We can have someone that we love pass and still have a great life to live, still have things to want to wake up to the next morning. But your mind would tell you that all of that stuff doesn't exist. Your mind will tell you that you're the only one in this big old world, in this big old universe that's struggling with this problem, and that makes you different, and that you shouldn't even try to overcome this feeling, that you should just accept it and just deal with it, right? That's not the case. When I tell you over 280 million people in this world deals with depression, that in itself should help you to be able to see that this feeling is common. It comes and it goes. In the United States, there are 333 million people living in the United States. So basically 75% of the people in the United States, you could take that and extrapolate it across the world, but 75% of the people in the United States are dealing with depression. If you want to use that stat, right? That 280 million stat, right? So that's what it looks like. Okay, so again, that's across the world, not just the US, but I'm just giving that as an example. So what am I trying to say, guys? Your mind is gonna play these tricks on you. And I want you guys to start to reach out to other people, whether it be a therapist like myself, it can be your best friend, it could be your spiritual counselor, whatever the case may be. Do not sit in this by yourself. That is what your mind wants you to do. And it wants you to do that because it wants you to avoid shame or judgment. And when you reach out to people, they're gonna give you everything except that. So make sure you're reaching out to people. Lie number 2 that your mind is telling you when you're feeling depressed is that this feeling will never go away. That is the biggest lie, guys. And I'll tell you why. See, what happens is that we tend to believe that things like calmness, peace, happiness, joy, right? We tend to believe that this is just a natural state, that we are given these things. And as a result, we take these moments, these feelings for granted. And when you take something for granted, you don't take time to notice it or appreciate it. But what happens is when, let's say, tough times like depression or even anxiety, when those times come, we start to notice it because it disrupts our story, our narrative. It disrupts how we believe things should be. But that's the issue right there. We can only notice and appreciate when things are going bad, right? That's the only time we kind of wake up out of this dream, out of this slumber. We start to see like, oh, life isn't going the way that I want it. Something bad must be happening. But here's the thing. When you're feeling depressed, there are moments when that depression is not there, but you have to notice it. You have to see it, and that's where mindfulness comes in. I'll give you a great example. You may tell yourself, man, I'm feeling depressed because I lost someone, whether it be through death, divorce, whatever it is. Or maybe there's a goal that you had in mind. Maybe you applied for a job, you didn't get it. Maybe you've been trying to sell something within your business and it hasn't been going well. Maybe you asked someone out on a date and they told you no, right? There's so many different reasons. What I would tell you is that when you're feeling that feeling of depression, see if you can take 30 minutes and go for a walk. See if you can take an hour and speak to a friend. Maybe you even find yourself going on a vacation, whether it be a big one or a small one. And I guarantee for 10 minutes, for maybe even 30 minutes or even an hour, you're gonna find yourself in a moment of bliss. You're gonna find yourself in a moment of joy, happiness, peace, calmness. But the thing is you have to notice that. You have to be able to taste it and savor it, just like a little kid would savor an ice cream cone on a hot summer day. You have to be there. You have to be fully present. Depression is something that changes just like the weather. Your feelings are something that changes just like the weather. They come and they go, and they'll come again, and then they'll go again. But to believe that depression will never leave, that right there will create something called hopelessness. And when you're feeling hopeless, you won't take any actions because you feel like all those actions will be in vain. And your mind will tell you that it is best for you to conserve your energy so that you can deal with the real problem if one were to come. But here's the thing, you're dealing with the real problem now. So again, the biggest lie your mind will tell you is that this feeling will never go away. And if you use a technique called behavioral activation, that will help you to be able to see what you need to do to make these feelings go away. And to give you a quick insight of what that is, behavior activation is simple. Basically, when you do things that matter in your life, it creates a compounding effect. It creates this reinforcing idea that, hey, this felt good. This jog, me talking to a friend, me, let's say, writing in my journal, these things, they felt good. So maybe I should do it again and again and again and again. And then you start to get in this cycle. You start to get into this habit of doing positive things that helps to make your life move forward. versus staying depressed, which may look like you, let's say, not going out, not eating, not sleeping, all of these things, if you will. So that is the biggest lie your mind is telling you. Lie number 3 that your mind tells you when you're feeling depressed is that no one will care if you're gone. Now, why would your mind tell you this? Well, the mind tells you this because unfortunately, he wants you to take away all the pain. He wants you to find a state where you're not feeling anything anymore. And your mind's best way to get you to do that is to believe that you should maybe take your life, right? And this is a sensitive topic, I know, but it's one that I need to spread light on. Because here's the thing, if your mind were to see that you did believe that people, let's say, cared about you, loved you, and would be devastated if you left, your mind knows that you would fight for your own life. Your mind knows that you would stay in it longer than it wants you to, if you will. Your mind would then know that you will go through a little bit more pain, the same pain that your mind doesn't want you to go through. Your mind knows that you will push through that. And the thing is when you push through that, you will develop something within you that's able to show you that you can get through tough times. But your mind doesn't want you to go through tough things. Your mind wants you to find comfort. Your mind wants you to do things that are easy and doesn't risk or jeopardize anything. And again, your mind will make this mirage. It will create this illusion, if you will, making you feel like no one cares about you. And that's not the case. I mean, think about it. Whenever you've seen someone pass, it could be even people over in Gaza, it could be people over in Africa, it could be people from anywhere in the world. When you hear of a tragedy, right? Let's say 20 people have died in a car crash or a bus wreck or train wreck, or there's been a mass shooting or something like that. Your heart goes out to those people, even though you've never met them. Life is a delicate thing, and it's something that should be cherished. And there are people out here that cherish your life. And I know that you deep down cherish your own life as well. But again, the mind will do and say anything to find quick, immediate gratification, even if it means costing your own life. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is, again, because there are people, and I've seen this, right? And I'm actually back up. Let me back up for a second. I took a class in college when I was learning to become a counselor, and they were walking us through this suicidal prevention course, if you will. And one of the greatest things they said to be on the lookout for, that is when someone says that they feel like a burden, when someone says things like they don't want to talk about their problems to other people because they have their own things, they have their own issues. Basically, a core thing that would tell me as a therapist that someone is feeling depressed is when they say that they feel like a burden. Because someone feels like they're a burden, they're going to take that burden off their plate, and this is them being that burden, right? So they will remove themselves, whether it be temporarily or, unfortunately, permanently. And that's why I said there are people out here that cherish your life, and I want you to believe that, okay? So don't let the mind convince you of this. This is probably one of the biggest ones, because again, if you did believe that people loved you, cherished you, you would fight harder for your own life. You would fight harder to overcome this thing that you're struggling with. So trust me when I say that. So again, this lie is that your mind will tell you that no one cares about you. All right, lie number 4 that your mind tells you when you're feeling depressed is that you're not good enough to access your dreams. You're not good enough, right? Now here's the thing, and you guys are gonna hate me for this, but your mind is right. But the lie comes because they forgot one section. They forgot the end, right? The word yet. So I'll say this again. You're not good enough to accomplish your dreams yet. All right? That's where the mind forgets to add that last part. It wants you to believe that there's a period where there should be a comma. Your mind wants you to believe that you are not good enough, and that will forever be your story. It doesn't have to be, right? It does not have to be. Now, what am I talking about, right? I'll give you some examples. So your mind may be telling you you're not good enough to, let's say, get on stage, speak in front of 1,000 people, and let's say make $1,000 or even make $1 million. And your mind may be right. Hell, that may even be true about me as of right now, right? And I like how I knew to say that, like as of right now. Because having a skill set, being able to develop, let's say, the psychology behind success, that is something that takes time. But time is on your side. You do have the ability to learn a skill that will then help you to accomplish a dream that you've been holding on to. I can even take this outside of entrepreneurship, business, career, and make it personal. You may want to go out there and make a lot of friends. Maybe even get out there and start dating again. But because something has happened in your past, something traumatic, you may feel like you're not good enough to do something like that. And again, you're not good enough yet. That yet piece gives you hope for you to actually go and learn a skill, whether it be from a therapist like myself, a coach, or even just for you to practice. And from the practicing, from the coaching, from the therapy, you start to see that you actually had it within you the whole time to go out there and make friends, to date, or to accomplish whatever goal it is that you want to accomplish. You just have to be willing to go through the ups and downs. If you do that, trust me when I say the goals that you have, they will fall. They will. And I see this from my own clients. I have some clients who, unfortunately, they give up on their goals, right? And that's okay. Maybe it just wasn't their time. Then I have some other clients who are very persistent. I mean, very persistent. I mean, to the point where they're accomplishing goals, right? Or rather, they're taking actions and they're not accomplishing their goals. But they're back in the gym, taking action again. They're back on their computer, taking action again, right? And that's just how life goes sometimes. Just because something didn't work the first time doesn't mean that it's not working. It is, you just can't see it. It's kind of like a seed that you plant and you water. You're not gonna see it burst above the soil, if you will, right? Above the earth. But you have to trust and believe that that seed underneath, it is working. It is growing. And that's what is true about your skill set. Hey, you may not be a millionaire the first year of business, right? You may not get 1,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel the first year you're doing YouTube, right? Like you might, or you might not. But to think that you will never get there, that is a recipe for depression. And your mind wants you to feel that way, wants you to believe that. Because if your mind can convince you that you're depressed and that you're not good enough, he knows that you will conserve your energy and not go through that immediate pain, right? It wants you to be comfortable. And that is not comfortable, ironically. Now, I want to give a second point here too. So as I said, your mind is trying to convince you that you're not good enough. And as I said, like, hey, it's true, right? You're not good enough yet, right? That's really the truth. Now, the second part to this, right? And this is, again, where the lie is. It's the context that your mind is saying this. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Right now, your mind is saying that you are not good enough in the context that you, Jonathan, you, Michael, you, Ashley, like you are not good enough. And what I'm saying with that is that it's making you identify with the not good enough piece. Just like someone can identify with being an engineer, being a doctor, being a sister, being a mother, anything like that, right? Like that is who you are. But when it comes to a thought such as you are not good enough, that in and of itself can never be you, right? It can never be you because you will always be you. You have never introduced yourself to a group of people by saying, hey, I'm not good enough. You never signed an email or signed a letter saying, yours truly, not good enough. You've never done that. Why? Because that is not who you are. Your mind will try to convince you that you truly are not good enough. And if your mind does that, guess what you'll do? You'll do not good enough things. I love talking this talk because it's a way to help you to separate from the real you and the things that you think. Because think about it. If I were to ask you, what do runners typically do? You would say they typically run. If I were to ask you, what do readers typically do? You would say read. And if I were to ask you, what does not good enough people typically do? You would say not good enough things. That's why I'm trying to help you to preserve yourself, preserve your sense of identity, your sense of self. So again, you are not good enough is a lie in the context of this is who you are, right? Now, again, the first point that I made is that you are not good enough in terms of the skill, right? The skill set that you're trying to learn. Hey, your mind may be right for now, right? You're not good enough yet with public speaking. You're not good enough yet with, let's say, building a business. You're not good enough yet with creating, let's say, the perfect picture if you're a photographer, artist, or anything like that, right? So I want you guys to remember that, all right? So you're not good enough is a lie. And the fifth lie that your mind tells you when you're feeling depressed, and again, before I share this, make sure you subscribe to this channel because clearly if you made it this far, you're enjoying this content. But again, the fifth lie that your mind tells you when you're feeling depressed is that you'll just get depressed again. Now, what is the mind meaning by that? Why would the mind say that, right? Now, first off, I want to say your mind, hey, it's actually right here, right? Like, you probably will get depressed again, but it's the context that your mind is saying this. Your mind is saying this in the context of hopelessness. It's saying in the context of why even bother going to therapy, taking your medication, speaking about your problems, journaling. Like, why do all of this when you're just going to get depressed again? And I'll tell you why. The reason why you should still do all these actions, going to therapy, taking your medication if you have to take medication, like the reason why you should do all these things is because it gives you a chance to live your life in between those depressive moments. Again, you're going to wake up one day and find that things are okay. Life is good, right? There's actually a sunshine outside and inside, right? And when I say inside your heart. But if you take those moments for granted, if you're not aware, if you're not practicing mindfulness, you would totally miss that and think that today is just another regular day. It's another boring day that I'm on this earth. But that's why you have to be present. That's why you have to be working actively through your depression. Because here's the thing, guys. Without pain, there can be no love. And without love, there can be no pain. So what I'm trying to say here is that, yes, you will feel depressed again because there's things in this world that you deeply care about and that you deeply love. To get rid of your pain, to get rid of the risk of ever becoming depressed again, I would have to take away all the things that you love, right? Because here's the thing, if you love someone and they pass, if you love someone and you break up, if you love a job and let's say you're not doing good at that job, or you have a moment of failure, or let's say you get fired or whatever the case may be, basically when the things you love are taken away from you or you have a setback, there's going to be a chance that you're going to feel a little sad, depressed, right? Frustrated. But that can only be because, again, you love something. Now, if I were to take all the love away from you, right? Would you avoid feeling depressed? Yeah, probably. But is living a life with nothing to love a life that you want to live? I don't think so. One can actually argue if I took away all the love in your life, that right there would be depressing. So will you get depressed again? Hey, yeah. But here's the thing. You will be able to handle it, but also knowing that depression, sadness, that piece is very, very common. Going back to my first point, common humanity versus isolation, right? Knowing that we all will go through a tough time, knowing that we all will feel depressed at some moment. That right there is something that is helpful for us to be able to release some of the hatred, the negative self-talk that we put on ourselves when we feel depressed. Because what I typically see is people get angry at themselves when they're feeling depressed. And this is going to sound crazy, but they feel depressed when they're feeling depressed, right? It's like they're throwing salt on their own wounds. Like, come on, guys. Accept this feeling for what it is. It's supposed to be here for this time period. And everyone on this earth will go through a time of grieving, go through a time of loss, go through a time of pain. But your ability to deal with that pain, that right there is the complete game changer for you. So let me summarize these 5 lies that your mind tells you when you're feeling depressed. Again, the first lie is that you're the only one going through this. That's the biggest lie because everyone on this earth will or has experienced depression. And again, across the world, 280 million people have been diagnosed with depression. And if you need help thinking about what that number looks like, it's about 75% of the US. The second lie is that this feeling will never go away. And that's totally false. It may be false for 30 minutes. It can be false for, let's say, a year, right? Like your sadness, your depression, like that's not always a constant thing. It comes and it goes, but you have to be aware to see it. The third lie is that no one cares if you're gone. Your mind tells you that because he knows or she knows that if you believe the opposite, if you believe that people did care about you, you would actually get up and you would fight for your life. Lie number 4 is that you are not good enough to reach your dreams. And it's a lie because they forgot the last part, yet, right? They put a period where there should have been a comma. Yeah, you may not be good enough to reach your goals yet, to reach your dreams yet, but if you keep working, if you keep trying, you'll reach them. And then lie number 5 that your mind tells you when you're feeling depressed is that you'll just get depressed again. And here's the thing, your mind is actually right. but it's the context that they're saying this in. They're saying this from a standpoint of hopelessness, in terms of the point of giving up. And what I'm telling you is that, yes, you will feel depressed again, but that is part of the human experience. Because you love things, you will ultimately feel depressed when they're taken away from you. But from now and that point, that day, it could be decades, meaning you could experience decades of happiness and bliss. So why jeopardize that? So this is Coach Wells. Thank you for checking out this channel. Thank you for checking out this episode. And if you're not subscribed to it, you're definitely missing out.